Hey guys, Mr. Happy here, and today I just want to do this quick little video. A lot of people have been asking me what my questions would be for the live letter 12. This is, yeah, live letter 12. I keep forgetting, you know, X's and I's, that whole thing. So I did ask a bunch of questions on the official forums, and some of them are a little bit far-stretched and I don't expect them to get answered, but some of them I feel are actually good questions. So I'm going to go over them with you, and I almost want to get your opinion, not on the questions necessarily, but on what you think about these questions. Obviously, we aren't developers, you know, we aren't working on the game, but I do want to just extend these questions to everybody so that they're aware of them, they can ponder on them maybe if you weren't pondering on them before. So I'm just going to start, I have my page open, I'm just going to read down my questions pretty much right here. I'm going to play some footage over the background. This is footage I've used a million times before. In fact, this footage in particular is, is interesting. Anyway, so first question I asked, and the first few questions I asked were on Leviathan, and I couldn't really come up with any question that wasn't generic, like, oh, what are the mechanics going to be like? Can we expect ads? Those are just things that we'll find out eventually anyway. He doesn't even have to talk about them. When we do the fight, we'll get our answers there. So, can we expect Leviathan, Ramuh, and Shiva Extreme to have a similar questline to Ifrit, Garuda, and Titan Extreme? Now, I know this is a bit of a stretch because it has Ramuh and Shiva, but they've already shown that they can sort of implement mid-tier stuff in between patches with Crystal Tower and the Extreme Primals and Good King Magomag and Ultima. So I'm expecting that Leviathan Extreme, yes, he's going to be the next Extreme that we get alongside Magomag, but I'm almost expecting that Ramuh and Shiva Extreme will have a similar difficulty curve to him, just be a little bit harder, being implemented in a new patch, perhaps. Something along those lines. They don't have to necessarily do it in that order, as you saw with Ifrit, Garuda, and Titan. They could switch it up, but I almost feel like we're going to get another Extreme Primal Weapon sort of deal in patch 2.3. So this is going a little bit far with this question, so I doubt it'll get answered, but just something to think about. The only other question I really had was, will Leviathan Hard Mode be required to enter the Binding Coil of Bahamut 2? Those of you who don't know, Binding Coil of Bahamut 2 will be turn 6 through whatever. Most people are assuming it will be turn 10. So Leviathan Hard Mode, will it be required? I think it will be, just with the nature of how Binding Coil 1 was unlocked, but at the same time, we already know you have to have the Binding Coil 1 beaten in order to access the Binding Coil 2, so they may not make any other requirements out of it, but I feel like it's a fair question to ask if Leviathan Hard Mode will actually be required to enter the Binding Coil of Bahamut 2. I don't expect either of those questions will be answered, but I don't really have any other questions about Leviathan. I'm not going to ask about mechanics. Lore, I'd love to wait and see. I just want to know that there's going to be some sort of involvement with Leviathan and the other primals. I just don't want him to be on an island by himself. Alright, so those are my only Leviathan questions. Nothing really too fancy here, so let me scroll down a bit here. Alright, now, the next ones are about the Binding Coil of Bahamut 2. You'd probably expect I should have asked that Leviathan question about the Binding Coil 2, but I just had a few questions here. I had actually 3 questions for the Binding Coil 2, and I wanted to get all my bases out of the way. The first one I ask is, will there be any other turns like turn 3? If so, will there actually be rewards within it? I had to ask, because we need to know if there's going to be another useless turn like turn 3 ahead of time so we can prepare ourselves for it. Turn 8, here we go, you know? And that's all, you know? And this question actually tunes in with one of my other questions, which we'll get to in a second. Now, the next one I had was about the story developments. Will there be story developments? Will the story developments, my apologies, be more common in the next incarnation of the Binding Coil? While there was a good introduction to, to the Binding Coil of Bahamut 1 and a solid ending to Coil Turn 5, everything in between possessed pretty much no story involvement. So I just had to know, how much story is there going to be in the Binding Coil this time alongside of the raiding content? Now, for some people, that doesn't matter. It's just more cutscenes, more cutscenes, more cutscenes. I understand people who may not be excited about the idea of putting a story in with cutscenes mid-raid, but with the way that the Binding Coil is done, I feel like there's, other than maybe turn 1 and turn 5 being a little bit too much in the cutscene department. Hey, every 5 steps we take, let's get a cutscene. I think they have plenty of room at the beginning of a turn and at the end of a turn to at least implement story that won't hinder the party in terms of just walking forward like turns 1 and 5. So that's my other question. And then the third question is, and this is for you endgame crafters out there, or you want to be an endgame crafter, Will endgame recipes be introduced in the Binding Coil of Bahamut 2 to make crafters more unique and desirable? That is one thing that could definitely be done to give crafting a sort of edge. A crafter that has a recipe that comes out of the Binding Coil is definitely more desirable outside of the world because he can craft gear, one piece of gear that people can use, and they can use that to progress, and that crafter can make some money off of it. It's a good sort of investment into the game. Sure, they don't want there to be like a literal end game for crafting with like hamlets and things like that, but giving them recipes makes them feel unique towards other crafters that are not only wearing the exact same gear but probably crafting the exact same things, and it also just makes them more desirable economically to other players. It makes them more interesting, and it implements things that absolutely I feel crafters in-game need. They need these kind of things to make them feel unique and to make them desirable. I said that like 6 times, but just want to really stick that in there. Alright, so the next question was about Ruins of Amdapor. I really only had one question here, and it was about lore. It says, will there be a sufficient amount of lore behind the Ruins of Amdapor through the story? I think we'll go there through the new main story developments. Or will its introduction be similar to that of Pharaoh Sirius? Just explain what it is and that it needs to be taken care of. I hope it's not like that. The Amdapori civilization has seen very little in terms of story developments, especially compared to Nim, who has really gotten to shine with Wanderer's Palace and the Scholar questline. There's just more information on the Nim than there is the Amdapori. So I'm really looking forward to seeing some Amdapori lore developments. I really think they need to draw this out. Now, that's the only question I had for the Ruins of Amdapor. Now, for the Live Letter 12 questions for Assistant Director Takai, I'm sorry if it's 5 letters. I'm just assuming I pronounced it right. I just had 2 questions for him. Now, one was more of a personal question, and one was more of a gameplay decision. Now, my first question was, how did the team decide the system for dealing damage and healing over time? So, dots and hots is basically what I'm talking about here. It seems a bit unorthodox to apply all of this damage and healing on an invisible clock the players cannot immediately see or interact with. So for those of you who don't know how damage over time and healing over time works in the game, there's an invisible clock that goes off every approximately 3 seconds. I think it may actually be slightly less, but I've been given very few opportunities to really test if it's like 2.98 or 2.9. I'm not going to get it right unless they announce exactly the time that the clock goes off. It seems to be every 3 seconds. So, having said that, I really want to know how they came to that decision. What led to the decision? Okay, everything is going to be on a clock. Everything ticks at the exact same time, and that's how it works. Every damage over time and healing over time effect ticks at the exact same moment. It's not like it's from when you applied it. It's from just on that clock. When you applied it, sure, if you applied it before the clock goes off, it'll go off quicker. But it's still going to go off at exactly those intervals. It's just a strange system to me, and I really want to understand, while I have the opportunity to ask, how this decision was made. And the other question I asked was, this is a question people ask Yoshi-P all the time, so I figured I'd ask the Assistant Director, Takai. If you could add one job to the game, what would it be? I still want my Puppet Master, but I really think Musketeer and Corsair, or even Musketeer into Ranger, are just gonna be what we see next. It makes the most sense. We need another ranged user. We need the Dex user. We need things. We need to make 2 of it. 2 strength, 2 vit, 2 mind, 2... What am I missing? What's the other one I'm missing? It's Dex, Strength, Mind, Int, Vit. There we go. I don't know how I forgot one of those. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I feel like just to even things out before we start implementing more unique jobs like Blue Mage, Ninja, Samurai, I think that's just a nice base to start on. And this one, excuse me, this one, a bit of a loaded question. I even say that right in the post. And this is about Odin. This is just general questions for the live letter. Just about I don't know if it's a general question about 2.2, just general questions I have for Yoshi-P and whoever else is going to be answering questions. So, in his current iteration, Odin is a bit of an enigma. I'm going to actually read the whole question out, which means I'm going to need to click it right here. Okay. This is a bit of a loaded question. In his current iteration, Odin is a bit of an enigma. We know his history, why he was sealed away. We know his seal was shattered and that he is now free. We know he was a ruthless fighter before, yet he currently just wanders around the Shroud without directly attacking Gridania. It is said on the website for Final Fantasy XIV that he may simply be looking for a worthy opponent, but that's all we get pretty much in terms of explanation. We are left with a bit of a cliffhanger after completing Odin's background questline in the Waking Sands, which we can only assume will be a prerequisite for future content. My question is, will Odin be expanded upon in the future? He's a Final Fantasy character with some rich history and inspiration outside of the Final Fantasy universe, immense power and threat. He is also currently very underappreciated. You've already shown interest in releasing primals in a Fate format, but can the opposite be done for Odin, where we'll go from a Fate to a regular primal fight format? Will he be expanded upon in future main story developments? That is pretty much the principle of my question. Will we see more of Odin? I just feel like, for as important of a character as he is, he just does not have a big enough purpose right now. And they've already left us on a cliffhanger with his story after explaining how he got free, what he's doing right now, why is he doing what he's doing, why isn't he destroying everything. I just want to know these questions. I want more explanation on Odin. But until we get that, hopefully they at least look at that question. But those are my questions. If you guys have questions too, be sure to go to the official forums. I'm going to put a link in the description below and find the live letter part 12. If you look on the developer side, you may see them right there. If not, I'll definitely, you know, I'll just include a link to the base for all 5 of these questions. So go ask your own questions there. You never know, they might get answered. If not, be sure to tweet them live during the live letter. Live letter 12 is this Saturday at 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and if I'm not mistaken, noon GMT. That's the extent of the time conversions I'm going to do. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share for more Final Fantasy XIV and just Final Fantasy videos and information. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and Twitter. We can get regular updates about when I'm asking questions like this when I'm streaming. And, of course, be sure to follow me on Twitch where I stream. Going to be doing Final Fantasy February in, well, February, and see how many Final Fantasy games I can beat in a month. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.